GAC, what's up, Precal12? Hope you're doing well today. I know that a lot of you have checked out the podcast, both part 1 of 9.1A and part 2 of 9.1 as well, 9.1B. Hey, I hope all of the questions that you're getting are getting answered. These podcasts right here are just a quick overview of what we've talked about before. And really, it's just if you have any questions and we could touch base on that, and we could kind of go from there. Really, the big thing is just kind of making sure that if you have any questions that we go through those. And so if you do, please make sure you let me know as we go forward, all right? What I'm going to do is I'm going to hold off for about, I would say about 20 seconds. Make sure if there are any viewers that you're on. And if you have questions, then throw them out there. If you have any questions on the homework or anything like that, throw them out and we'll go through them together. Again, this is review over 9.1A, 9.1B. This is after day 2 of Coach Jay missing after Tuesday. So if you're looking at this, that's what we're looking for going forward, all right? All right, we're going to hit on this in just a second. Before I do, I'm going to give just a second just to make sure if you have any questions, we go through it. Then afterwards, we will hit on it and then go from there. So let me hold off for just about 20 seconds, and then we will come live to you. All right, I've held off for just about long enough here. Just want to make sure, again, if there are any other questions that we throw them out there. I know I've got one so far, so that's you. Then let me know. We'll go from there. Okay. All right, let's do this. I'm going to go straight off of this first one here. In fact, I'm going to pull it up just because I know it was on there. We're looking at 9.1B right now. I know the first question that we had up there was how do we find or how do we solve the following revenue equation, all right? So let's do this. Let's take a look at it and let's go from there. Now, the first thing we want to do is we want to try to solve for this equation. Now, remember that in this case, the X would stand for our X-intercept, obviously, and our R would be more like our Y, or what we're trying to solve for there. Now, the reason why we want to solve is because in order to put it in a graphing calculator, we must first get R by itself. So to do this, we're going to keep X minus 106 squared on that left side. But in order to kind of do this, let's distribute -4/5 across. So let's get -4/5 R plus, and I'm going to have to do this because I can't do this in my head here. What I'll do is throw up my calculator. I'll take 14,045, 14,045. Divide that by 5, and then we're going to multiply by 4 here to get 11,236, okay? So this is positive 11,236 when we distribute. Now, in order to plug in my calculator, we've got to isolate the Y, or in this case, our revenue, which is R. So we're going to subtract 11,236 from both sides, okay? So you kind of see that there. So we're going to keep it as is, X minus 106 squared minus 11,236. Now, again, it becomes a little tricky because now, in order to get R by itself, let's multiply by the reciprocal, which would be like -5/4, okay? So we do that, -5/4. So that means we put -5/4 on the outside here. And really, as I look at it, really, I mean, we probably could have done this a little bit easier. But we're going to multiply now by -5/4 on this side, which really would be the same thing we just did, really. So our equation we're going to put in our calculator is -5/4. You could put that in as a decimal, like -1.2, times X minus 106 squared. Make sure this is like in an extra parenthesis, okay? Should be like that. And then obviously then my, when I get this here, to be plus 14,045, okay? plus 14,045, and that equals R. Now, as I look at this, the big thing that they're asking us is to use a graphing utility to graph the function and approximate the number of sales that will maximize the revenue. Now, think about it this way. If we're trying to graph this, in our graphing calculator, we should get a graph that looks like this. Now, on this, we'll get an X comma R, or X comma Y, okay? What they're asking for is how many numbers of sales, which is X, would we need to maximize the revenue? So if we could find what the maximum of this is, we could take that, and then once we find that maximum, we could just put in whatever the X is of the maximum value, and that's the number of sales we're trying to find, okay? So that's kind of what we're doing there, and that's kind of how we find it. Stephanie, do you have any questions on that? I know that there are a lot of parts to that. The big thing is just setting it up to where we could actually solve it. So again, if you have questions on that, let me know. But that's kind of the big picture there. So if you got a question, keep it thrown there and kind of go from there. If there are any other people that are out there that are wanting just to watch, that are watching, I know I've got a viewer or two out there. Please throw that out there, any other questions, and we'll go from there, okay? All right, perfect. Excellente. All right, let's do, let me make sure I didn't have any other questions here. Perfect. Okay, if you have any other questions within this about 10, 15 minute time frame, please let me know. A couple that I want to look at real quick. Let's look at one that's a little difficult here. Let's look at this one, and let's look at the setup of this one. If I see any questions come through my phone, I will stop what I'm doing and we'll immediately go to the next problem. So feel free, bother me. This is just, since there's no questions here, it just kind of allows us to go through everything we need to go through here, okay? Now it asks us a couple things, 4 things, but the main things we need are focus, vertex, and my directrix. Now, in finding my vertex, it becomes easy when it's in this form because we just think of opposite. So this is gonna be -1/2, comma, +1, okay, +1. Now, remember that the value, whatever the whole value is that's in front, must be in front of whatever's not squared. Remember, our standard form is x squared equals 4 times y, or y squared equals, and this is really 4p, I'm sorry, y squared equals 4p times x. So these are our standard form. We want the value that's not within the parenthesis. We want that to the side that does not have the actual square there. So in doing this, we've got it actually in standard form, but to find my foci, I've got to set 4 equal to 4p to find out what p is. Remember, p is the distance from my vertice to my foci, okay? So it's the distance traveled. So because this is a +4, we know that this is going to go up in some way, and we know it's -1/2, comma 1, so we know it's going to go upwards somewhere in here, okay? Up in here, up in here. All right, so we set 4 equal to 4p because 4 is there. We divide by 4, p equals 1. So what that means is, since it's going up, this is going to go up 1, and that's my foci, okay? And then I'm also going to go down 1, and this is actually my directrix. Remember that this is going to go upwards because the x is the part that's being squared. If y was being squared, this would go left to right, okay? And if it was negative, it would go the other way. So just a reminder on that. So now we just need the points. So it's actually, the directrix would be at y equals 0. And the foci, since it only went up 1, would keep the same x, and it would go up 1 from 1 to get 2. So we got all 3 parts. Now we just need to graph it. So when we put x and y together, I like to just put in, let's say, let's put in 0, okay, and 1. 0 plus 1/2 is 1/2. 1/2 squared is 1/4. Okay, so I get 1/4 equals 4y minus 4 when I distribute that 4 there. So add 4, I get 4.25, and this is more or less, you could do this on your calculator. I have no problem with that. 4.25 divided by 4, I got 1.06. So you can kind of put that down. 1.1, I guess, is really where we're at. So 0 goes up to 1.1. 1 about right there. It kind of reflected over to the other side. Now, if I plugged in 1, I would get 3/2, so 1.5 squared. I do the same thing, add 4, and divide by 4. So again, all this is on my calculator. I got 1.6-ish. So I got 1 to 1.6. So you get the idea that this graph is going to go somewhere like that. And again, that's all I'm really looking for. Notice that once I find one side's points, I can then reflect it over to the other. Just make sure that you transition over appropriately. Okay? All right. Last but not least, let's look at one last one, and that's number 2. Number 2 is a good one too. Because the x is being squared, let's put all the x's on one side. So that's where we'll have x squared minus 2x, my apology. And let's put everything else on the other side. So let's subtract both of those to get negative 8y minus 9. Now, makes it kind of easy here because what we want to do is make a perfect square. Anytime we make a perfect square, we're going to half the middle and square it. So half it, I get negative 1. Square it, I get positive 1. What I do to one side, I do to the other. And so what I got now is what two numbers would multiply on the left to get me to 1, but add to be equal to negative 2. That'd be x minus 1 and x minus 1. Or we say x minus 1 squared. Remember, we're looking for a perfect square, so if you don't get something that's perfect, probably did something wrong there. Now on this right side, we get negative 8y minus 8. Pull out something in common, that's negative 8. And we're left with y plus 1. Now, we have the value by itself on the side that's opposite of the squared, so we're good there. Now, we find what our vertex is, which would be 1 comma negative 1. We think opposite, right? And the distance of the foci, oh, first of all, we know it's negative, right? And since it's x squared, this is going to go downward like this. And what we could do is actually set 4p equal to negative 8. Remember, again, that equals 4p in our standard form. Divide by 4, p equals negative 2. So what that means is from my vertice, I'm going to push down 2 for my foci. So my x stays the same, but when I go down 2, let's go to negative 3. And my directrix does the opposite. So it's not going to go down, it's actually going to go up. So this will be at positive 1. It's actually going to be at y equals positive 1. So it's kind of giving you an idea here what we're looking at. That's how we find all three. You could use a graphing calculator to graph that, or you could do it by hand. It really, you could do either or. The big thing is making sure you take it step by step. The only other step that's different from 2 compared to 1 is try to get it in that standard form. Really, that's the key, okay? For instance, look over here, and I think I messed up on this on another podcast. That negative 2, we want to divide by negative 2 first. And now what we have is now we have it in standard form to where y over negative 2 equals x squared, or we could say x squared equals negative 1/2 y. So again, standard form is huge. Standard form is key to be able to identify what we're doing on that. Hey, I didn't get many questions, which hopefully that means that you are getting this stuff. Stephanie, thanks for coming out, and thanks for those of you who did come out today. If you have any other questions, I'm going to hold on for about 30 seconds here. Get in your last question, and we'll go from there, okay? So, again, I'll hold off for about 30 seconds, and then we'll rock and roll. Thank you so much. All right, thank you so much. Again, I appreciate your help there. If you have any other questions, I'll be on Thursday night to address any questions off of 2.2 that you'll do on block day. Thanks again. Have a great day, y'all. Care about you. Can't wait to be back with y'all. Love my daughter, but again, can't wait to show her off to y'all next Monday. Thanks and have a great day. Love y'all. Bye.